Hello aspirants, I welcome you all to editorial analysis of Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 27th of February 2025. Displayed here are the list of articles that we are going to discuss from the mains perspective. In this first article, we will be discussing in detail about the maternity health and what are all the acts that has been provided for maternity health. And in the second article, we will be discussing in detail about the three language formula and what is the dispute around it, what are all the challenges and what could be the way forward from the mains perspective. So without any delay, let us get into the article discussion. Now look at this article. The title of the article reads "A Leap Backward for Maternity Entitlements." So the article itself highlights certain schemes that provide maternity entitlements and talks about what are all the shortcomings in it. So we shall see them one by one from the mains perspective. Here the first scheme that has been mentioned is the National Food Security Act NFSA. Under this National Food Security Act NFSA, 6,000 rupees a child has been entitled for the maternity benefits. And we have Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, in short called as PMVY. Under this also 5,000 for the first child is offered, and if the second child is girl, then also the benefit will be offered under the particular scheme. However, the article highlights two important things. Firstly, the entitlement is not at par with the inflation that is happening currently, and secondly, the fund disbursement is very delayed. So this is actually hampering the progress of the schemes and ultimately affecting the outcomes when it comes to maternity benefits. So these are all the very important facts that you have to remember. From the mains perspective, we shall see some of other maternal benefits schemes and acts that is currently available. Before that, we shall see a mains practice question. Discuss the key challenges in ensuring maternity health in India. How can policy reforms and universal maternity entitlements improve maternal health outcomes? So it is actually a 15-marker question for 250 words. You can write an answer and post it in the comment section so that we can review your answer. So we shall start with the constitutional provisions under which the schemes has been formed. The first important article is Article 21. This actually includes maternal health as well. Article 42, which is under DPSP also, we have the state should provide for the just and humane condition for work, which also includes maternity relief. So based on these two constitutional provisions only, we have different acts. The first important act is the Maternity Benefit Act 1961. So this particular act actually prohibits the employment of a pregnant women who is going to undergo delivery. So here, if you see the period up to 2 surviving childs, 26 weeks of benefits has been provided, 8 weeks before delivery and 18 weeks after delivery, and more than 2 surviving children, 12 weeks of maternity leave will be provided. And moving on, we shall see about the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. So under this act, the definition for termination of pregnancy is provided, and a legal limit has been provided, like 24 weeks you can terminate the pregnancy. Beyond 24 weeks, there are certain conditions. The child, if the child growth is there, the child will die or the child's mother will die. So those kinds of extreme cases only, beyond 24 weeks pregnancy termination will be allowed, but until 24 weeks termination is allowed. And this termination also should be done only under registered practitioner. So any kind of unregistered or unauthorized termination is actually illegal as per act. And then we have Surrogacy Regulation Act 2021. This act prohibits commercial surrogacy. Commercial surrogacy is nothing but renting uterus by paying money. So those kinds of surrogacy is actually regulated and it is illegal when it comes to our country. And it also provides for national and state surrogacy boards. Moving on, we shall see about the National Nursing and Midwifery Commission Act 2023. This act provides for standardization of training when it comes to nursing and midwifery. They also recognize qualifications granted by statutory bodies. Now coming to the main scheme, Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana, in short called as PMMVY. It is actually a scheme that provides both the nutritional support as well as the wage compensation. So here the beneficiaries or the pregnant and lactating women, and the first live birth, it could be extended to the second child if the child is female. So the focus is entirely on the economically weaker section in order to provide inclusivity in the society. Now, the two important key judgments when it comes to maternity benefits is, firstly, we have Sujitra Srivatsana versus Chhattisgarh Administration 2009. This particular judgment provided for women's right to reproduce, especially when it comes to reproduction choice, under Article 21. So we have the second important judgment, High Court judgment on medical termination of pregnancy 2017. This judgment only gave the way for termination of pregnancy even after 24 weeks. When such a case is happening, compassionate approach should be given. So even though there are multiple schemes, there are certain challenges in proper implementation of the schemes. For example, there is regional disparity when it comes to the urban and rural area. The service variability is there. And secondly, there are state challenges. For example, certain states have high mortality for which a tailored scheme should be there. But one fit all schemes are being implemented, which is also posing a very big challenge. Secondly, socio-economic inequality. There are wealth disparities, limited access when it comes to poor households, and we have again we have urban-rural divide. There is unequal care when it comes to accessibility, and this also is brought by the socio-economic inequalities. Thirdly, we have health system limitations. So the resource shortage is there. When we take the doctor versus people population ratio, it is very declined, and most of the doctors, they prefer cities over rural area. So the resource constraint and resource shortage is there. Secondly, overcrowded facility. The urban centers has been populated, and the resources available only there. So those kinds of health system limitations are there. Thirdly, cultural and informational barriers. There are a lot of awareness gaps. They are not aware of the schemes available and about the service that has been provided. There is also cultural barrier. For example, there is language barrier, migrant issues are there, and we have policy, yeah, hurdles as well as administrative hurdles. For example, the documentation issues. There are strict ID requirements, which also hinders the migrant workers to access a particular service. And the implementation gaps, for example, there is disparity in service delivery as well, and there is discrepancy based on the socio-economic status of a particular patient. So here comes the question, what can be done? See, the first important thing is we can bring in universal maternity entitlement, providing benefit to all the pregnant and lactating women, and this can include both the formal as well as informal sector, and we can simplify the eligibility, and we can bring in tailored schemes. Secondly, we have to increase the benefit amount. We have to raise the benefit to at least 12,000 rupees to keep the benefit or the entitlement at par with the inflation. And we have to bring in timely and structured disbursement of the funds, and we have to integrate the entitlement fund along with the nutrition programs. Moving on, we have to remove the bureaucratic hurdles, especially when it comes to documentation. We have to reduce the other dependency, and we have to bring in digital or multilingual platforms, and we have to empower the local bodies to ease the registration process. And we have to bring in lot of transparency and accountability. This can be done by publishing data on beneficiaries and fund usages, and we have to strengthen the grievance redressal, and we have to promote audit and social monitoring. So this will bring in a lot of transparency in the system and bring in accountability. Finally, we have to learn from the best practices. For example, we can get inspiration from Tamil Nadu's model. For example, 24,000 per birth has been provided by the particular state, and we can adopt Odisha's integrated approach, and we can customize the policies based on the regional needs. So these are all very important facts that I have to remember when it comes to maternity benefits. So far, we saw about what are all the schemes that offer maternity benefits. We saw constitutional provisions, we saw the challenges, and then we saw the solution. So with these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Now look at this article. The author has beautifully quoted this title. The quality of teaching, that's the issue to be debated, not adoption of the three-language formula. So here the article entirely talks about the three-language formula. but the author says the quality of teaching is what it must be debated. So, from the mains perspective, it is actually a very important or a very interesting topic. So, let us see them one by one from the mains perspective. Before that, I have a mains question for you. Discuss the challenges associated with language education in India, particularly in the context of the three language formula. How does language policy impact the quality of education? Suggest measures to improve language education in the country. It is a 15 marker question for 250 words. You can write an answer and post it in the comment section so that we can review your answer as well as your peers can review it. So let's start with the lack of uniform implementation when it comes to language education in India. See what happened during, even before independence also, we had the debate of whether going to a vernacular language or we have to stick on to the English medium of education. So after independence also, we had this debate whether to follow Hindi medium or we have to follow the English medium or we have to follow the mother tongue of the particular state. uh, Especially when it comes to India, we are a diverse culture, we have diverse culture and we have diversified languages. So to bring in a uniformity, Hindi language was suggested, and based on that, three language formula was brought in 1968. This was implemented. This should be implemented across various states. So how this works, if you ask, basically we have to follow English, we have to follow mother tongue, and along with that we have to follow the Hindi. So what if a particular state has the mother tongue as Hindi itself? So here comes the debate, and when that is the case, those kinds of states with Hindi speaking, they will be choosing one South Indian language. So this is how the three language model or the three language formula actually works. But in South, the three language formula has been implemented. There is English, there is a particular mother tongue, and there is Hindi. However, in Hindi speaking states, southern language has not been adopted. So this has created a lot of debates. There was a lot of regional disparities as well. For example, West Bengal, there is only Bengali and English, and Karnataka and Maharashtra, they had Kannada and Marathi emphasized. In even Tamil Nadu, they had led to anti-Hindi agitation in 1965, which led to two-language system. So this is what the tussle that is happening when it comes to language education in our country. Now here comes the question: why English should be a medium of education? See, there is a very famous quote called "Sun rises and sets in British Empire." This quote is basically said because the start of the Earth, which is Great Britain, the prime meridian, and the end of the Earth, everywhere is British Empire, and that is why this particular phrase has been made. And wherever British people go, they did not go alone. They took their culture, they took their education, they took their administrative method, and they took their language as well. So this is why English is actually a global language, and the career prospects also is greater when English is there, and that is why English medium has dominated our education, and it led to a decline of regional language education. And there are certain issues like socio-economic divide. For example, the private schools, they encourage English versus government regional medium schools, and there are parental struggle also there. Certain parents, they are not aware of, or they were not very familiar with English, which has led to a lot of poor proficiency. For example, in 2020, Andhra Pradesh brought in a shift, policy shift. They shifted from regional language to English medium in government schools after protest. So, having seen about language education in our country and why English has dominated our language education, we have to talk about the quality of teaching here. So, we are actually relying a lot on rote memorization, and this is actually weakening the linguistic proficiency. And we have to bring in a lot of focus in grammar, comprehension, and creative writing, and we actually lack trained language teachers. For example, as per ASER report of 2018, only 50% of rural class 5 student could read a basic class 2 text. So all these tell us we have to focus a lot on quality of the education instead of debating the language as a political scene. So here comes the question, what can be done to English the language education? Firstly, we have to strengthen teacher training, and for that we have to bring in specialized training, bilingual teaching methods. A very good example is Ekalavya Model Residential School training tribal teachers. And the second important thing is we have to promote multilingualism without imposition. So here the flexibility should be awarded, and we have to bring mandatorily, we have to make people to know them at least three languages. A very good example for this is Kerala. They promote Malayalam, English, and Hindi without any dispute. Thirdly, we can enhance the learning material and digital tools. We can bring in lot of AI-driven tools. We can even personalize it based on the children's need, and we can bring in lot of interactive platforms. So this will make the children learn the language with ease, as well as it will be in the form of rote memorization. A very good example is Google's Bolo app. So it will help the child to learn in both Hindi as well as English. Fourthly, we can revive the indigenous languages, and for that we have to bring in mother tongue based primary education. For example, we have Odisha's multilingual program. They will be teaching Santali, Koi, and Ho. These are like tribal languages that are not properly researched. So those kinds of languages, when being authorized by the state itself, it will be bringing in lot of rejuvenation to the language. And finally, we have to bring in reforming language education in higher studies. So we can bring in regional language courses in universities as well. For example, IIT Bombay, they are offering engineering courses in Hindi, Marathi, as well as Tamil. So these kinds of solutions can be implemented to solve the particular quality issue when it comes to language education in our country. So far we saw about the reason for three language formula, what are all the protests happened, and then we saw about the why English was dominated, then we saw what are all the aspects that we have to focus and what are all the measures. So with this we came to the end of the news article discussion. If you like the video, hit like, do comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy YouTube channel. Now thank you so much for listening.